Hi, it's Sonia and welcome back to my YouTube art channel. Today I'm going to do another sketchbook tour. I know I just did one last week, but the reality is I've just finished this abstract altered sketchbook. And you know what? It just seemed, I just feel like actually it's a good time to look through another sketchbook. And yeah, since it's finished just now, let's do it. So I think, again, I've shown other altered sketchbooks in the past. I sort of got into them, I can't remember when I did my first one, but I really like them because there's almost like you've got to cover, for me, I want to cover up the text, most of the text. I'm not yet into sort of the whole blackout poetry or necessarily retaining the text. It's just a way of always getting started again. And with abstract art, I think this one has worked particularly well with the abstract art. At first, it's interesting because I was like, oh, should I just cover the whole page? Like, not necessarily just use the text as a border. So I experimented when I first started. This was back in June. No, is it July? July. With, yeah, sticking some collage on. But then I very quickly, I think I suddenly decided, actually, the whole having a white border, or cream border, this paper's cream, worked for me. I kind of liked that as a sort of, I don't know, enclosing the pages, enclosing the spreads. And I did use, this is very mixed media. There's a lot of, to begin with, there's a lot of collage. I was really into collaging. Just playing about. I really try to be, what's the word, like have no expectations, really go super, I guess, basic or simplistic. At the same time, some pages I've gone really detailed with mark making, using fine pens on top, sort of layering. Just like, I kind of like this. What is this? Is this gouache? I think this is just pink gouache. And then just filling in. It's just nice to have it as a space. I basically work daily in it. I'd often do like two sides. And maybe because it's not that big in some ways, I've just started another abstract sketchbook. And this one's quite, you know, the space is not big. So you can easily get a spread filled up, especially if you're covering a lot of it with collage. I think this is not this. I think the reason I've kind of done a lot of abstract work this year is in sort of when we're going through, you know, busier times or maybe different seasons of life where there's more caring or more things going on, then I guess these sort of sketchbooks work well in terms of they don't take long to play in. Like, you can do a few minutes here, you can do a few minutes there. So I think that is why I've been doing so much of them. And I really enjoy, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I really enjoy this sort of art. It appeals to me. It feels less, sometimes I just get less frustrated with it in a weird way, or I get to get my frustrations out, whereas I have been doing some, like, I still do realistic and practice my drawing skills, but there's more scope for me to, I think, get, you know, annoyed at myself if it's not going the right way. With this, it's like taking a line on a walk. He said that, was that Paul Klee? Whichever artist said that. But I get that. It is like you're meandering. You get to, yeah, as I talked about last week, you know, that's sort of meditative, letting your mind wander. And also, what I love about it is you can respond. Like, sometimes I want to create space. Maybe I feel there isn't any space. So I get to, you know, this is very sort of very basic. I mean, super quick to do. The only thing I would say, for anybody who's interested in this sort of sketchbook, is a little bit of preparation ahead works wonders, like painting pages, covering them up, getting some materials ready for the next day, cutting old pieces of work up. So, you know, this is obviously gouache, and then I've just stuck on some leftover coloured paper. And yeah, sometimes it's also a way of experimenting with materials that you've got hidden away in drawers. I think this is somewhat of Inktense, and I had a week where I really tried to use Inktense because I've got them. Oh, this one I liked because it was I also sliced off some pages to make more room. Sorry, I got a bit of a dry throat. Make more room. And then I sort of drew over the illustrations and then I've stuck them in. Yeah, just playing with leftover paint. If you've got, for anyone who's very messy like myself, I often have like, you know, bits of paint left over on palettes and plates, and then instead of, I think sometimes with gouache you can obviously reactivate and it's not wasted, but it's almost nicer to use the paint when you've got it out. So I do try and use up what I have. This is very heavy with collage. And I feel like sometimes you get a theme going. So you might do a piece, you're like, oh, I really like that. That was really fun to do collage, and then paint around the collage. And I think I've sort of continued that for a bit. And then you go in a completely different direction. And this one was just absolutely mark making, cutting up things, covering up the pages. This feels a little bit more looking for a sense of order. And sometimes I can sort of know, I can remember certain pages. Though I haven't written anything, it's not a diary as such, I kind of know now my own language, and because I've dated it, what was going on for me and what maybe it was a response to. Could also, I'm very bad at it. I really think it's a great idea to make notes. Just as when you're reading a book, I love it when people make notes in the, what's it called? The side, you know, on the side, or underline things. It's a way, you know, this is no, in some ways it's not meant to be a finished, it's like a sketchbook. It's a working out, a place to work stuff out. So I don't, it's not that I just sometimes just don't do a lot of writing when I'm doing it. I just do it and then move on to the next thing. But I like this page. Some days they don't work out, I got to be honest with you, and I'm like, could you come back and then re-alter it? For sure. I don't think I will re-alter this one, because I actually feel there's a lot, I like this how it is. This is for me finished now, and I will put it away. But it doesn't mean, you know, in a few months, especially if I was short of a sketchbook, you can come back and do what I did in the other project, for sure. That's referencing the other video I made on an altered abstract, where I altered my own plain sketchbook. I think with the only hesitation, I love doing this sort of altered book project, because there's a lot of books that get pulped. You've got lots of damaged books you can get from your library sale. People leave outside for free. I don't know. I think I saw a video where David Shrigley, he pulped a load of, who was it? Who wrote Dan Brown's books, that famous book, and then he made like a new copies of 1984. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these just like things get recycled, so it's a way of recycling something and then making it your own. So it's cheap, and you can use, the only thing I would say is to obviously, well, you can use watercolour, but some media works better for making an altered sketchbook. Obviously collage, I've used Posca pens. You kind of need opaque markers, because otherwise if you use, like, you know, some markers, they're not going to cover up the text, and they may not be great. Certain paper as well, looking for books with certain paper works for me. Here, this is funny, I've got a sticker book, and I stuck on a few stickers, but obviously didn't like it, and I've gone on top with, I think, oil pastel, gone on top with clear gesso. Oh, I put this as a mess. Assembled this up. Okay, this is a 5-minute collage, just cutting up an old work. And then I was like, no, leave it, just as an example of something I can do. If I ever, you know, run out of, I don't know, uninspired, I don't want to go on a screen, then look at books, look at your own sketchbooks. If we keep these journals, sometimes, like looking through my own journal, draw from another abstract. So yeah, I love the fact that you can just make a bit of art, create, and it doesn't have to take long. You don't have to use expensive stuff. You can, you know, go to your recycling bin, get out some old papers, Be quite a fun project, but I've got enough paper to recycle, to be honest with you. But what quite a fun project would be, like, you get all those, oh gosh, like, I don't know if people still get it, supermarket flyers and stuff, cut letters out, just do some really scribble all over it. This looks almost like a check pattern developing. Yeah, so here you can see I keep saying sometimes, sorry. I have at times cut out, when the book was getting too thick, I would sort of thin it by cutting out pages. I also really love this. This is a nice page. I should mark as an idea for myself, because often you can at times think about, when you're out doing the whole observational sketching is great, but you can end up with a lot of notebooks or sketchbooks that are full of, 2-minute drawings that maybe you don't, even though they're observational, you don't really love or feel connected to. So what was quite fun is to still do that. It's great practice. Like, it is really good practice just having one pen, little notebook, and making drawing people, as you can see here. So this was out from a couch, like going on a train. I sketched out the window, and it was really, trains don't stop for long, so it's like a few minutes, and I made so many of these observational drawings. What was quite fun was I recycled the sketchbook, cut it out, so here's a little bit of observational drawing, but made into my own, my own piece, and I quite like that, I have to say. I think there's great scope to, if you've got too many, you need to have a bit of a cull. Get rid of a sketchbook, cut out the pages you want to keep, and then file them within another book. But yeah, this was obviously really, some of these pages are very chaotic. There's lots of collage here. It's kind of tacked. I like as well making them a little bit tactile, like the different papers. Now here, yeah, I could have filled this. I just wanted it to sort of centre, like, where do you draw the eye? And this fluorescent green gouache really works quite well for me. This was, I think, some gesso left over, and then I experimented going over with sort of crayons. A grocery bag cut up. Bits of tissue paper. I think I just wanted to remind myself, if I ever want to tone a piece down, stick a bit of transparent, parchment paper, tracing paper, tissue paper. This was old black packaging from something, and I unfolded it, and yeah, it was great for the gel pens. So it is useful to have these sort of sketchbooks on hand, just to remind you, if you're ever like bored of your own techniques as such, or looking for changing it up, there are ideas within your old journals. So yeah, I had a lot of fun as well with, composition notebooks or thin notebooks. I found that I'd sometimes use them to glue on, like as a surface to do my glue sticking on, and then you got all the glue left on it, but then if you go on top with paint, you get a very nice thin sort of collage paper. I think I deliberately wanted to keep those, obviously from an old watercolour painting of a tree, and just to remind myself you can highlight areas. I'm not quite sure what this page is going on about. Sort of like a quilt, isn't it? When you've got leftover paint, it's really nice at an end of a session, especially if you have been painting like a landscape or something a bit more detailed, just to lay colours next to each other in squares or rectangles. Always is just quite pleasing. It's just interesting what the colours against each other. I know a lot of artists do this as well. And again, this was acrylic wash left over, so I just wanted to use up my paints. And yeah, I think I do end up, because I tend to do two at once, like it feels like most of these spreads there is a little bit of overlap in terms of the materials I've used, the colours. Oh, engraving is also fun when you're using thick paint to like chisel in. And some silver, is that metallic wrapping paper, I think, from a cake. I love the collage as well, for when you cut out your shapes, but you're often left with the what's the word, the inverse, or the bit that you cut it out from, and I like to keep those because themselves they often like for framing or adding interest. Almost landscapey in some very basic ways. I get it just being influenced by. This one, I occasionally will limit myself. I'll have limitations. And I was like, okay, this spread this morning, I want to use up my collage box. So I just did collage. And I wasn't allowed to. I sort of said to myself, just collage. And then I went collage, this black paper, but then just tried to keep it minimalistic for me. Added the colours. Opposite of that, going for maximalist mark making. And using, obviously this is a cut up oil pastel drawing, which I'd covered with, accidentally I'd used a gloss medium. So I was like, I quite like that though. It's quite fun, the contrast and the colours. I really like the colours here, that black and turquoise against, this sort of shiny orange and purple. I think this sort of a journal as well works for, there may be times like, who wouldn't, I've got canvases, I love to do abstracts on canvas, but getting paints out, cleaning brushes, these little pages, I feel, you don't need to worry, you can just come to your desk, use what you've got, and then go off again. Even if some days there's no using brushes or paint, but when I do, if I do want to use paint, I don't want to, I am bad with brushes, I'm not going to lie, then I will, just use a bit of card. I haven't got any on my desk, normally I have some on my desk, but I cut up now, good nice bits of card, and I just use them as scrapers, just to scrape on, squirt out the tube. I think artists often do this as well, which I think when I was younger and I was like very much in traditional methods and very, wanting to learn all the proper techniques and the idea of squirting any kind of paint straight from a tube onto a page and just splodging it out, I think that would have seemed, I don't know, I would have thought that was sort of bad form, but not what you should be doing. But now I do it and I'm happy to do it. I love it. That whole going I'm not rebelling as such, but just playing. What was this? This was, I put some of the pieces. I do try and put my own work on the kitchen wall next to the kids as well. I think they often fall off because they're on masking tape. And I was like, I'm going to file it in here and then respond to it on this side. Oh, and I did think someone, was it Robert in the comments put about, you can also keep these sort of notebooks or sketchbooks somewhere in the house where often you have 5 minutes to spare, and instead of and you can go to it. I think the example was microwaving food or cooking food. When you're cooking, you could come to do a quick page, add some marks. Often this is a common, I'm sure everyone can relate to this, when you're put on hold for appointments or pharmacies or whoever, get out, do some mark making as well, rather than, I think the other go-to, isn't it, is just, if you are standing around waiting for something, is I try really hard to get away from the whole scrolling the phone. This is cutting out. So I don't have a box cutter or a knife, and so I try and remind myself, why not do some paper cutting as well, cut out shapes. You could cut within, I think there may be an example, I don't know if it's in this sketchbook, where I've cut the page so you've got the whole, you see the underneath. There's all sorts of fun things you can do to your pages. This one I really like because it was I did a really detailed, what those are called, mandala, and then I cut it up, and that sort of Matisse the reality is, the natural go-to, there's only so many, if you've got a big pair of scissors, a bit of paper, I really do feel there's only a limited amount of shapes one can, you know, and these shapes are great, but you can change. Yes, it's all been done, but everything's been done before, so just do it again, but do it in your colours, your way. And also, if you are feeling that sense, which I did have this period where I think I made a video on like slowing down. I feel like I'd just seen so much art, consumed. And it's good. I think it's really good to learn, to read up on stuff, but especially because of the nature of online, I was like, I just feel like it was more, you know, is there anything original left, especially when it comes to drawing and painting? Probably not. But what is refreshing is if you take a break, ironically, take a break from watching YouTube, you know, take a break from too much stimulation or content, then your own ideas, your own very basic techniques seem fresh again. So that's always a good. Just to say, Agnes Martin, that whole. Another thing that when I was younger I used to avoid was using a ruler unless you're doing technical drawing, because I was like, oh, you shouldn't use rulers, you know, when you're sketching rooms and stuff, like try and get straight lines, which is good, but like it's okay for me to now use a ruler in my abstract sketchbook and make straight lines with this orange pen. It just comes through, and it's so I really like that effect. And I could, you know, when I was doing it, I could sort of, you know, see why a lot of people find that sort of art relaxing to make, and it's kind of considered kind of the opposite to sort of freehand, I guess, drawing. This is so then I found a sheet of these were actually figure drawings, like from life drawings, if you can guess which body parts they were. So I didn't need to keep it. I cut it all up, and it's kind of rehoused in. I don't love this side, to be honest with you, but some days I just was like, I've only got so much time, just do it and leave it. Collage, there is a lot of collage. Towards the end, I will show you when we get to it, but I started to be like, this book is so big, I think I'm going to have to stop with the collaging, because it's obviously building it out, and I do. All times of maybe higher stress, anxiety, I really love escaping into mazes of random lines. Using colours I don't like next to each other is always a fun exercise as well. I mean, that green really isn't me at the moment. I might change my mind in the next few months, but I was like, oh, I wonder if I put it against some other colours, how will I feel? So this I left because for once you've got the text, but I liked, it was a reminder to myself, maybe in the future, use these, you know, text. People do use, obviously, book pages as collage backgrounds. And yeah, like you could, it would be, choose some words, respond to them. You could have this is what I love. I'm much happier now in myself, in that I think I've stopped trying to limit myself, and I'm as entitled as anyone to explore playing around, abstract art, drawing, collage. You have a go, find out what you like. Like, I like these 2 pages, I don't know why, but I do. I might not like them in a month or 2, but for now I do. This was sometimes my pens that are running out. I really want to, like, you know, I'm really trying as well to use stuff up before it just completely dries up. Play around with it, use it. This was like from the kids when they came out from preschool, some of these papers I found, when you're like tidying out, decluttering. Metallic markers are good. I did find that they work to cover up text, so that's often why they're featured in these sort of sketchbooks. This one I used, I think I actually for once as well, something I would not normally do. I used like I had a tape thing left over and I printed with it. A reminder, it's okay if I want to use stencils now, use stencils. Like, I think I used to believe there was this gold, I was always trying to achieve this gold standard of drawing the perfect freehand circle and accurate lines. And I still want to practice that. I don't, you know, I think I wrote it in a comment somewhere. I was just thinking about this. I think there's two sides to me. Like, I want to carry on practicing drawing. But I also want to practice being more open to other forms of art and not judgmental. And yeah. Whoa, I like this. So here I think we're getting to the knowledge that I really probably should avoid, the last bit being any collage, if I wanted to close this book at all. And also, in case in the future I do want to come back and alter it, then I could do. I think I could still paint over, put a little bit more collage on. This one, I'm not a huge person for browns as such often, yet there's something about this that now I kind of like that what sort of a brown is it? That sort of a sienna, burnt sienna, that brown. Yep, so then I realised I've got some gouache. I tried to use up. So my only thing, this Artesia, I'm going to be honest, this isn't meant to be a gouache review, but heck. I got these because they were obviously cheaper than Winsor & Newton Holbein, and they're good gouaches, but this, for example, I cannot open this. They do seem to jam up the lids at times and get stuck, and I at risk of drying up. So you can obviously cut them. So this one I will cut and use, and you can, you know, empty them out. But yeah, I'm just aware that I need to be more aware of my supplies before buying new ones and use up some of the ones I have. I liked this sort of very dark brown, and under here I think you can almost, this was interesting to me because I did a pen drawing with this sort of nice sort of purpley pink, and then I realised that even though I'd covered it up, you can still on this side see there's a variation. I don't know if it's coming, but I can see it, and I really like that, and I like this blue on top, so I tried to keep it. I tried to stop. These sketchbooks are great also for stopping early, because you know you're not so worried about they're big. You're not so worried about wasting space by, like, if you did a big canvas and you just did a very minimalistic piece. But you can see what it would be like, and at the same time you can push things. You can have pages where you go a lot further than you maybe normally would, and you can experiment with stopping early and stopping perhaps too late. Yes, so these pages are I used cheap gouache as a background. I got some gouaches, like they're quite big, like jelly gouache, but in big, and they're great for just covering up. And I love this colour. This page with that red and that yellow. Yeah, this sort of speaks to me. Sometimes I think I just go a bit too much. Playing around with really loose drawing. Purple again, but much more covered. I think this is really near the end. Okay, I think that's, and then occasionally I stick in some things. Right, so that is the end of my sketchbook tour. I hope this is of interest or motivating to anyone who's considering an abstract sketchbook, purely abstract sketchbook, and sort of a low entry way into it, a relatively cheaper way of facilitating it as well. And just to quickly say, I have started another one. This is the reason I want to quickly mention this now is because I think this is another idea for anyone who's sort of hesitant about abstract art and doesn't want to just dedicate, say, a nice, a Royal Talon sketchbook to it. Have a look and see. I found this old, you know how you've got notebooks and things? I'd had this for a while, and I love this graph paper. It's just been But I was sort of thinking, oh, should I use it for draw? I didn't really know what to use it for. And then I was like, come on, just use it now. Let's see what happens if I use it as it'll be a very short abstract sketchbook. But this is my sort of current place to sort of go to for early morning meditation, late night, lunchtime, mark making. Just a space to, yeah, play around. And the interesting thing is, whatever sketchbook you have, I think it's hard. You will make different art than normal. So I think I'm responding to the fact this is graph paper. So it's almost like I want to do that sort of like, you know, tight. I've got lines to follow. So it is turning out a little bit different to my other ones, which is nice because I was like hesitant to start another altered book quite so quickly. I feel I want a little bit of space from that last one. And then I do have, because altered books are great, I do love them. This one I want to finish next, and this is my sort of loose figurative altered book. And yeah, it's sort of like anything goes, but I don't know how to describe it. Where's the page I did? I've been really into also, the problem is one thing I have learned is maybe work through them page by page. Because it's annoying when you want to, or mark them with so where is it? Oh. Okay, I might have to, well, another time. I want to do a sort of a review of some work. But anyway, you get the gist. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.